Jay here, Stretford Paddock. This is the Paddock podcast. Joining me, as always, are two titans of the Manchester United fan base. I've got Mr. Joe Smith.
Hello.
Feeling better?
No. Move on.
Great chat.
Move on.
Next question. Also, Mr. Ronaldo Brown. How are we doing?
I've had better days.
The scourge of Evertonians.
Oh, I hate Everton. No, joking. I'm joking. Do you know what? Before the summer window, Everton was a club I respected quite a lot. Do you know what I mean? Barclays heritage.
A lot of United fans do like Everton because
enemies.
Everton, my enemy's enemy is my friend.
Exactly.
And Everton fans hate Liverpool.
But yeah, they've made a hater out of me though in the summer with the behaviour of the fans and that. And I've really enjoyed their start to the season as well.
We're going to get into the Liverpool game, obviously. Also, a little bit of fallout from that. A little bit of sort of a debate went on after the game, during and after the game between Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher. So Carragher being very, very critical of Ten Hag, praising the facts and pointing out the fact that Arne Slot's in 3 games in. Erik Ten Hag's been here for 2 years. Gary Neville was a little bit more considered about it all. So we'll be getting into that. We'll be saying who was right in that side of the argument. Make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. Let us know what your thoughts are on the Carragher-Neville argument and on yesterday, of course. We're still, unfortunately, talking about it because it's kind of what everyone is chatting about still. Joe, I'll start with you. With this Neville-Carragher-Ten Hag debate, do you just want to talk us through the quotes at first? You think you've got them there? You got the Gary Neville one.
So obviously this is them debating the effect that Ten Hag has had on Man United in the 3 or 2 years he's been there. So he said, Neville says, I think that Ten Hag is going to get till at least Christmas. The board aren't going to do anything stupid. He's going to get a few months. There's no doubt about that. No doubt about Dan Ashworth has got a calm to him. So he's saying that he thinks United are going to give him time. Jamie Carragher said, I don't think anything's going to change in terms of football at Man United. Why would it be stupid? Obviously referencing Neville saying that it'd be stupid to sack him. We can see after 3 games what Slot is about. After 2 years of Ten Hag, we still can't see it. And I think that's been an argument that I've seen a lot on social media, this whole thing of, Slot's come in and after 3 games, X, Y and Z has happened, and after 2 years of Ten Hag, we aren't seeing such drastic changes, or certainly the success of those changes. Firstly, I hate this argument, because last season we saw a similar thing with Ange Postecoglou at Tottenham. He won his first 9 games and then finished outside the top 4. Mm-hmm. So it's not just the case of just because you can see the impression of someone on a team, therefore you're going to be amazingly successful. Admittedly, Tottenham finished above us, but we had a completely disastrous season. And the other thing with this is the team that Slot took over finished 3rd last season, was going for a quadruple in January. So it's not like he's taken over a team where the manager's just been sacked and we finished 7th like we did under Ralph Rangnick. I know obviously Ten Hag should have seen more improvement from him in the 2 years that he's been here, but to compare the two, obviously you're doing it because that's the game that's taking place, but they're not fair comparisons. You can't compare one manager taking over a team that he hasn't built, he hasn't done anything with, and it's basically go out there and keep playing. I know he's not just saying that, but Liverpool don't look way better than they did at times last season. They look like there's been tweaks and they've managed to do new things, but it's essentially the same team and similar performances to last year. Whereas United, we had to completely overhaul the style of play. We had to bring in new people, new players, new coaches, everything, because the team that Ten Hag inherited was shit. And that's the difference. So yes, we can separate the two things. Ten Hag is due some criticism and we need to see more. But using Arne Slot as the comparison of like, why haven't you done what he's done, doesn't make any sense. It's not the same, he hasn't inherited the same problems or the same situation whatsoever. It's just an easy thing to throw at Ten Hag because, obviously we've just lost to Liverpool.
Yeah, no, I agree. Ronny, what did you make of the argument? Where did you come down on it? Because, Carragher isn't just talking complete nonsense. I get his argument, even if you don't agree with it. Do you know what's mad? You can see what he's saying, even if you don't agree with it.
Carragher's, when he does his punditry, especially about United, obviously has been having a Liverpool connection. I think he does have an added element of, what's the word? He's a little bit more scathing, or I think he takes it as an opportunity to have a stick to beat United with. Yeah. But saying that, there are a lot of elements of truth and stuff that he does say when it comes to United's situation. Yeah. And I think if you're looking at the opposing statements between Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher, is that Carragher just seems like he's being a little bit more outwardly honest about Manchester United and the situation, whereas Gary Neville's being the typical in the middle, on the fence type of vibe that he usually does. But I still think there's bits of what Neville said in terms of Dan Ashworth having a bit of calm about him, not making a really rash decision. I think that's accurate. I think that needs to be truthful. Jamie Carragher says, I don't think there's going to be a change in terms of football at Man United. From what we've seen over Ten Hag's tenure, that does seem like it could be the case. You see I've seen adjustments, I've said that over the first couple of games, but I just don't know if it's been enough. And that's the concerning part. I've said it time and time again, United was so unbelievably awful last season that we can actually improve. I've said it 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
We can improve probably like 5% and it's still not be good enough to win games like yesterday, or to consistently play well and compete week in, week out, even against the lesser teams like Brighton.
Yeah.
I just think Ten Hag, when you go back to the style of play argument, I think Ten Hag has actually definitely implemented the style of play, but I just don't know whether the style of play he's implementing is conducive to winning consistently in the Premier League. I think there's an element of like gun-ho kind of semi-recklessness about the way that we set up, and there's a bit of naivety in the way that we do play, in terms of sometimes, for example, when we press, I think our press has been slightly better, but it still has holes in it. I think it's one of those, when our first phase is bypassed, we're basically 4v4 again, and we saw elements of that last season as well.
We saw it a lot last season.
We saw it a lot.
It was exposed a lot last season.
Exactly. I just don't. For me, Carragher, you can't really say he's saying anything that's wrong. But Gary Neville, he's being very obviously protective. But you can't look at his statement and say he's completely being unreasonable either. I think there's probably elements of truth in what they've both said. But I'm just sick of the fact that we're still having this debate. We've had this debate all last season, and we've started this season we're having the same debates again and again, and I can't wait for the club to actually get to a stage where we are performing, and it's not, is the manager good enough week in, week out, are the players good enough week in, week out on the back of a loss? I'm tired of it, Jay.
No, I'm tired of it, bro. I'm tired of sort of having to make excuses or defend the indefensible at times. I'm tired of having our rivals gloating. I'm tired of watching my team get battered as well. That's become almost like a regular occurrence. We get hammered, either at Old Trafford or away, at least once every 6 months. Yeah. There's a good hiding in there for Manchester United, and a lot of the time it's like, whether it's City coming to Old Trafford, whether it's Liverpool, whether it's going away to Brighton or Brentford or whatever, it's just far too often, and it shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen with this group of players, even with injuries. And the injury record at the minute isn't perfect, but it's not as bad as it was, so you can't use that as an excuse. I'm going to get into some of the comments. Akash K says, what was really alarming for me is how bad the work rate off the ball is when Mount is not playing. I mean, what the actual fuck? Great show. Conor O'Reilly says, Carragher is bang on. We are a joke. Can we stop the excuses and face reality? We get embarrassed regularly and keep doing mental gymnastics for Erik Ten Hag. Ridwan says, what do you think of Ten Hag putting Delo and Mazraoui so high up in the build-up? So if you lose the ball, it's an overload on Lisandro, hence why they kept Salah and Diaz high. They pressed RCMs crazily. Callum says, some United fans blinded by Ten Hag. T-Bone Jackson says, Casemiro, one of the highest paid players in the league. Laughing emoji.
Should we talk about the fullbacks thing? Yeah,
okay. Let's talk about, because I actually thought Mazraoui did well yesterday. I've been impressed with him since he's come in. You know my thoughts on Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I was gutted to see him go. And I didn't know a lot about Mazraoui, but from the games I've seen him in, I think he's looked decent, especially going forward as well. It's obviously one of the reasons that he wanted him over Wan-Bissaka, because Wan-Bissaka going forward was questionable, where Mazraoui looks very confident. He's a proper attacking fullback, and I thought he slotted straight into a game that was obviously, Liverpool is one of the big games. Yeah. To be thrown into that as your third start for Manchester United, I thought he did well, and we know what Diogo Dalot's about. I know, Ronny, you love him, don't you, Dalot? He had a very good season last season, and I think he sort of answered or silenced a few of the critics. So these are fullbacks that are capable, is what I'm getting at.
But I don't think
the question is are they being set up in the right way?
Yeah, I don't think, like you said, they're not. I don't think that people are questioning Mazraoui and Dalot as players. They're questioning their positioning, whether that's direct instruction or whether that's where they've chosen to put themselves.
If they've both done it, it's
game.
definitely instruction.
And I was just going to say, and I tend to believe that is instruction. But the problem is, it's not just United that push their fullbacks high up in the build-up phase, because also they're not like wingers. They're just in the line of the midfield. So you've got...
Who else does it?
When Liverpool were pushing up, there was points where Alexander-Arnold was further up than Salah when they still had the ball on the halfway line.
Yeah, but
so it's not like Liverpool were doing it to us yesterday.
But saying other teams do it doesn't like deflect from the actual problem. No, it's still a problem.
But,
I mean,
is it a problem? Because it's only a problem.
Obviously, because it means that when we lose the ball, it's 5 versus 2.
It can be a problem. But of course, loads of things can be a problem. Pressing high can be a problem if you leave a massive gap in the middle. Like sitting deep can be a problem because you can't attack and counter-attack very well. Like everything can be a problem. Every tactic, every part of a tactic is a delicate balance between the positives that it brings and the negatives that you expose yourself to. And I'm not saying that it's perfect.
It's definitely high-risk football.
It's high-risk football. I'm not saying that it isn't, but I don't think that them being there where they were was what led to those goals. I think the problem that we had yesterday, as there are many problems that we had yesterday, one of the main ones is Casemiro gave away 11 passes. When he's your DM who is dropping in between centre-backs at times. So you've got your 3 players there playing out from the back. You've got your 2 full-backs who have pushed up wide. Main, who maybe could do a better job of linking the play up in the middle as well. Bruno and Xerxes are basically occupying the same space, which isn't helpful. But when you've got that kind of setup, those passes out from your defensive midfielder are incredibly crucial, and maybe it's putting too much pressure on Casemiro, and the tactics could perhaps be exposing weaknesses in Casemiro, and maybe we should do a better job of working around that. Maybe they are too high risk for the players that we have, and maybe, like you said or you hinted at, maybe it is simply too high risk to have both of your fullbacks spreading wide and pushing up immediately. I get that. But if you've got your centre defensive mid, and it wasn't just the 2 goals that we gave away, the first 2 goals, Casemiro's flicking balls over his shoulder. He got pickpocketed another time, and the ball happened to fall back to Dalot. If your centre defensive mid is consistently losing the ball in that position, even if your fullback is back, you're still going to struggle to defend against that. Giving the ball away 35 yards out from your own goal in the centre of the pitch is a disaster, regardless of where your defenders and your fullbacks are. So that's something that has to be considered in this.
But Casemiro does this week in, week out.
Yeah,
where he's extremely vertical and extremely progressive with every pass almost. Every pass he takes a risk, and then sometimes the simple ones go awry as well. How long will it be till it comes to a point of Ten Hag doing his managerial duty in reining him in? Telling him to keep it simple, to pass to the person next to you, and to stop giving the ball away.
I think that's fair.
And it seems like every time that he's playing, he keeps doing it. And if players keep doing the same mistakes and doing the same thing, I'm going to start to believe that Ten Hag maybe enables it, or he's not instructing them otherwise, or maybe wants that kind of gun-hole vertical passing, because I almost come to the conclusion that's maybe the way he wants us to play. But for me, if you sign Casemiro as a CDM destroyer, who never at any point in his career has been a deep-lying playmaker or someone that was tasked in anything to do with the first phase build-up, because he had people like Modric and Kroos holding his hand, why have we brought him to United, and why is the manager putting him in a situation where he's tasked with that responsibility, and he's struggled with it for the majority of the time that he's been here?
I think,
because for example, you're talking about why we got the our fullbacks going so high. If you know Casemiro isn't absolutely brilliant on the ball, he's not that press resistant, and he's prone to give the ball away. Why are you putting him in a build-up situation where Casemiro is receiving the ball in them areas where if he gives the ball away immediately, in terms of rest defence-wise, teams are attacking you 4v2? I think he should just not... Casemiro's shown that he's not good enough to do that, and he showed that on the weekend. He almost single-handedly lost us the game, but then you've got to bring it back to the manager and stuff structurally. Why is he being put in that position? I said it last season. Part of managing isn't just tactics or whatever man manager is. It's about putting players in positions that optimise their abilities. Yeah. And I don't think Ten Hag does that enough. Do you know what I mean?
I agree. I agree that he doesn't.
Can I just read you something, right? This is a player rating, and he says 3 out of 10. Surely one of the worst performances of his career.
Talking about Casemiro.
Offered little control, and the opposition honed in on his lack of pace, leading to the opener, withdrawn at half-time.
Yeah.
That was against Brentford a year ago.
Yeah.
Right? That was what was described as the worst performance of his career a year ago.
Yeah.
Because he was put under pressure when he gave the ball when he lost it.
Yeah.
And people going, Casemiro's not that guy anymore. That was in October 2023. And we're having the same conversation in September 2024. So it's not just like this has happened overnight with Casemiro. The signs have been there.
Yeah.
And we sort of kidded, I thought we kidded ourselves, and I said this to you after not kidding ourselves, the Community Shield. Because watch the Community Shield, you watch pre-season, you even watch the Fulham and the Brighton games, where he was a little bit, especially in Fulham in pre-season against City, he was a bit further up the pitch and he looked like he could keep the ball a little bit better and he was linking up with the strikers and people going, Casemiro's all right. But he wasn't being asked to do what we've got him to do or what he's in the side to do, which was protect the defence and try and keep possession there. And once he was against a very good Liverpool team, it's I mean, what was it? You said it was 13 times he got dispossessed. That's poor.
I think there's a couple of things. Firstly, the first summer transfer window since that Brentford game, we've signed Ugarte for he's been alongside Euro our most expensive signing this window. So it's not like we're going, Casemiro's class in here, this is great, everything's fine. We've literally signed a 23-year-old for 60 million euros that's going to come in and hopefully do that job, or 50 million euros up front, possibly up to 60. So we are trying to change this. Secondly, Ten Hag wanted De Jong, and I'm not, obviously, we're 2 years past that now, Eric. You have to come up with some solutions that aren't Frenkie de Jong. But I tell you who can receive the ball on the half turn and find passes in tight areas and dribble away from people like Luis Diaz over your left shoulder. Frenkie de Jong's literally one of the best in the world at that. But you haven't got Frenkie de Jong. No. And you can't pretend that Casemiro is Frenkie de Jong just because you wanted him 2 years ago. You have to adapt. So I agree that that's definitely a weakness from Ten Hag. The other thing is that we also have to accept that Liverpool in particular are one of the best teams on earth at exposing that particular weakness in a player. Pushing high, pressing from all angles, giving the ball playing midfielders zero time on the ball. Their press and their sort of energy has been one of, if not the best in the world for the last 6 or 7 years, and that's obviously continued under Slot. So it's a particularly harsh sort of cocktail of things that happened against Liverpool, and that's not to say we shouldn't have seen it coming, because we should, and I think Ten Hag has to take some of the blame for that. You can't know that Casemiro is particularly weak in this area, know that Liverpool are particularly strong in that very same area, and not account for it at all. No. And again, it costs us, maybe like you said before the game, because weirdly, if you look at Casemiro's stats in the last 12 months, he is surprisingly good at the build-up play stuff in the final third. Like, his creative stuff is very good, but his interceptions, his ability to carry the ball through the lines, his sort of ball playing through the lines from a defensive position isn't very good. So actually, when he's on the ball, he's not great receiving it off the defence. He's good in their half, which we saw against Fulham and Brighton to a lesser degree, when he's sort of shipping balls to the back post and playing 1-2s around the 18-yard box. He can do all that. But turning on the half turn and playing out, he's actually not very good at that. And Ten Hag should have accounted for that somehow. I don't know what you do, really. You obviously maybe pull those fullbacks in a little bit and play a bit more defensively, because you can't just bring in a new player that doesn't exist. They've bought Ugarte, and hopefully, even though that's not his strong suit particularly either, but hopefully he's much better at carrying the ball than Casemiro.
Ronny, I'll let you have one final talk on this before we move on, because I don't want to I feel like we're labouring the point. I get it, we have to talk about it, but we've spoke about it now for 3 different videos, so go on, make your point and then we'll move on from Casemiro.
Yeah, because with what I would say about the Ten Hag thing, going back to what you said about De Jong and wanting him as a player, that just feeds into what people are saying about Ten Hag now in terms of obviously stubbornness, but his seeming need for ex-players. And that can be a concern in terms of he must have like a tactic and philosophy that's very, very player and profile specific. He's been here for 3 years now, and it's seemingly not worked for sustained periods of time the way that he wants to play. And it seems like his default setting is just to request more and more players that used to play what he played at Ajax. And that for me tells me that he's not sure. His way of like almost projecting his ideas and his tactics with new players isn't obviously coming across enough, do you know what I mean? And it isn't working. And it seems to me that what confuses me is there's been minor adjustments and he's been and minor bits of adaptations, but not enough. And even when I see him in press conferences, it seems like he's very, very stubborn. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't really like to take accountability too much. I think there's certain elements of he says that seems like a bit like he's gaslighting either the board and the fans. and that's me being blatantly honest. He just strikes me as a guy that he could lose 10 games in a row playing a certain way and he still won't change things. And that's what's worrying me, because there has to be something that has to give, because we can't keep having results that we haven't, and we can't keep having performances and games where it seems like it's just a toss-up whether we win or lose because of this the type of football he wants to play, or the setup and the structure. And I'm getting sick of it. I came into the season trying to be positive. I saw the first couple of games and thought, I'm seeing slight changes, so I'll continue to be positive. But then, I don't know, man. I think the game yesterday was just a massive kick in the teeth for me. And what really rubbed me the wrong way was kind of how the trophy logic that he used. And I've said time and again, you can't really scoff too much at winning trophies because it's not an easy thing to do. But I think the biggest indicator of how well a manager is doing, especially at a club like United, is your league form. Because that's 38 games. That's 38 games of football against 19 different teams, where your kind of tactical acumen and your managerial skills is properly tested. Yeah. And I think that's what needs to be representative of how well he's doing, and not the cup victories, without scoffing at him too much.
Yeah. I think I've read that out. Yeah. I think I've read out Conor O'Reilly. Mario De Silva says, do we fully trust Ineos' decisions when the options considered were Tuchel and effing Southgate? Why not the likes of Amorim and Motta considered? Akash K says, Man United passing was atrocious. No tactics fixes that. Ashish Rajora, I think you've just done a super chat with nothing on it. Thank you, though. Eminem 5533 says, people say our players treat the ball like a bomb. Isn't that because Erik Ten Hag tells people to bomb forward, leaving no easy short passes? Seems like he would rather speed the game up than slow the game down. Piran Hobbs says, if Arsenal sacked Arteta after 2 years, people wouldn't think he was building anything. The shoots and leaves can only be seen in hindsight, not in real time. Jaskar and Bula says, Ten Hag was honest and blunt in his first season during post-match analysis. Since last season, he's become more defensive and regularly creating this false narrative of everything going well. Abhinav Verma says, why aren't we blaming Brailsford, though? Why don't we have the juice the cycling teams have? Where are the inhalers? We need more energy on the team. True. That is a very, very good
Why isn't
point.
Casemiro in full body lycra with one of those big helmets?
Why isn't he in his what is it, like in his trailer, injecting his own blood from when he was running up mountains? Yeah. That's what I want to know. Going full Lance Armstrong. Do you know what I mean? That's what we should be doing. Why are we not doing that? Why are we playing by the rules? That's just stupid when you come from a cycling background. No one does that. Do you know what I mean? Get a grip. Listen, I agree with everything you both said. I'm trying not to be too reactive, and thankfully we have got an international break. I say thankfully because maybe we can have a little bit. We can just calm down. We can have 2 weeks, a little bit of a reset. I know we are Reset FC, but it does feel like quite appropriate now. But there are pros and cons to that. Joseph, you can talk us through the pros and cons of having this break after such a demoralising result.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, just a bit of a breather.
Yep.
I think. I mean, it can go both ways, can't it? Depending on the makeup of the squad and the character of the players. Some of them want to play another game 2 days later and make up for a bad performance. Others would rather bury their head in the sand for 2 weeks and come back and pretend that Liverpool never happened. And unfortunately, I feel like United, as years go by, have got more and more players that would rather get away from it all than knuckle down and I want to play Liverpool again next week in the Carabao and overcome what we just did. So I think that might help us a little bit of a break. People going off with their national sides. The other thing is Ugarte and his fitness. I mean, a lot of pressure is going to be put on him.
Massively.
Which makes me feel a bit guilty. But the other thing to remember is Liverpool at home is a very difficult game. It's not like I know we did lose to Brighton, which again is a tricky-ish game, but we're not going to be facing Liverpool every week. They're one of the most difficult sides to play against, and in the last decade have been one of the sides that we beat the least. So the fact that that's kind of done and out of the way for now means that we can hopefully get a little bit of momentum going. Not that United's fixtures are particularly easy over the next few weeks either, but that game is particularly difficult. Ugarte does need to settle in though, because United's midfield is in a bit of a precarious situation where if Mainoo's injured, I mean, I don't even know what's going on with Mount. I don't know, will we ever see him play 10 games in a row for United? I don't know. But he's out for a while now. If Mainoo gets injured, what's the midfield? Ugarte and Casemiro as your two, could our strikers touch the ball less than if those two start together? Do you know what I mean?
That's my worry, because I get your point about we have gone out and we have got Ugarte for a reason.
Yeah.
But if he gets injured or suspended, then obviously Casemiro's definitely in the side. Plus, then you sort of down to bare bones anyway, because we've lost McTominay, regardless of what you thought about him, he was a midfielder. Yeah. Going on from last season, we didn't renew Amrabat, and I get why people were like, look, over the course of his time at United, he didn't do a lot. I just fell in love with him because of the cup final. But that's 2 midfielders out, plus one who's not long-term, but who's injured as well. Bringing in one who's yet to kick a ball for us.
Eriksen's also a year older.
Eriksen's a year older. Yes, Toby Collier played yesterday. He struggled a little bit. I'm not having a dig at the kid because it was a baptism of fire, and it couldn't have been a more difficult debut for him. But I don't know how much you can rely on him. So it is a little bit concerning. And the big concerning thing for me about all of this is, if you just look at a normal side and you go, okay, maybe you get 1 or 2 injuries, but at United, we get so many. Yeah. It's like you feel like we need a Chelsea-style squad of 40-odd players. Yeah. Because every time I think, Mount's doing well, he's out. Oyland scored a goal against Arsenal pre-season, he's injured for a month. What?
6 weeks.
6 weeks. Lenny Yoro's come in, great player, 3 months out. What? Yeah. I've not even seen him.
Luke Shaw, he played in the Euros, that's great. Yeah. He's got a month to get fit for United. Oh, he's out for 2 months.
Yeah.
What's going on?
This is insane.
He's tweaked his knee 18 months later.
Yeah, his career might be over.
Yeah, he's not back yet.
It's ludicrous what is going on at Manchester United. So it's difficult to sort of look at it from the sort of an objective point of view and go, well, you might get 1 or 2 injuries. We might get nine, might get 19 the way we've been going. See, there is all that. Go on, Ronny, sorry.
Yeah, because it obviously, as I said, you get 2 weeks and then players that aren't fit, that we've got more time to recover, players that will come back that we definitely will need, because it seems like it'll be a season where we definitely need everyone. Yeah. The level of the Premier League's gone up again.
More games in the Europa as well.
So United can't afford to stand still. No. And obviously Mount as well. The Mount injury was a big one because he seemed quite integral to United's press in the first couple of games, which is a good thing for him, but it's a concern because if you've got a pressing structure that's reliant on individuals, and it's not a good pressing structure.
Is that the case though, or is it that you need a team full of players who can do it well? Because if you put Casemiro in Liverpool's side yesterday, or let's not just pick Casemiro.
Salah's not a good presser.
No, but he's not playing in the centre of the pitch, is he? He's scoring and getting an assist every game by doing what he does. But if you replace their midfield that's absolutely full of legs, not particularly quick players, but energy and sort of aggression in the middle, with people who aren't like that, then surely you're going to see a difference. You know what I mean? Yeah, replacing someone like Mount with someone not like Mount.
There's definitely a difference. Because some people are better pressers than others. They have more tempo. They've got better in their legs. But sometimes a pressing structure is meant to have a level of structure and compactness to it that it isn't too heavily reliant on just if individuals can run fast or run harder. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And also, it's also about the manager conveying his ideas correctly, where when the players go on the pitch, you know exactly where they need to be, what instructions to follow, what the actual pressing triggers are, and everyone basically working in unit as a unison. That's what's most important. It's like a collective rather than an individual. For pressing to be good, it's got to be a collective thing, not an individual thing. And that's the problem.
What is it Ralph Rangnick said? Pressing is like being pregnant. You're either pressing or you're not, or you're pregnant or you're not. You can't be a little bit pregnant and you can't be a little bit pressing.
Yeah, just a bit off. But
pearl of wisdom from Mr.
This
Rangnick,
is mad though. We talk about this and I think the pressing's been better this season than it was last. But it shows how far we had to go. That it's still quite easy to bypass, and we do look vulnerable as well.
Going back to the Neville Carragher question, who do you agree with? Sort of Jamie Carragher being a little bit scathing, as Ronny said, or Gary Neville being a little bit more reflective, or not reflective, a little bit more, I don't know, what was the right word? Measured, I think would be the correct term. We did a poll, over 1,200 votes, keep voting, it's not ended, and 57% agree with the Scouser. Disgusting. You should be ashamed of yourselves agreeing with Scousers. What has this channel come to? Let's have a look at some more super chats. Raf22 says, imagine still thinking Erik Ten Hag wants control. Signings quotes for 2 seasons have pointed to chaotic, very direct play. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had less power in signings, yet had higher position, I think that should be. I don't know actually. Defensive line control. FA Cup was a mask. Reece says tactics slightly infuriating. Midfielders pressing their wing backs, leaving that space in midfield. The 1-in-3-1-6 always struggles. Mark Whiteley says, do you think Rashford will ever bounce back? It's heartbreaking watching him. We're not seeing the best of Marcus Rashford, and I think there's a weird thing where you can be critical of Marcus Rashford, and I was yesterday, and I will be, but then there's also the fact that on another day, with better finishing from Joshua Zirkzee, Marcus Rashford could have walked off that pitch with 2 assists with 2 very good crosses. Ashish Rajoya says, love your content, guys. Kira, my kid, says hi. Hello. Hi to you and Kira. Ashish Ram S says, Erik Ten Hag seems to act as if there's no rush to succeed. I mean, it's weird. I've done a lot of press conferences over the years, and then one-to-ones, and managers will say certain things and do certain things at press conferences that maybe behind closed doors they're not saying. So they might put out this aura of like, look, what you want about it for this funky dory, and then they get back in behind closed doors and they're doing a bit of an hairdryer. I think the issue you've got with Erik Ten Hag is some of the analogies he uses, some of the comments he says. He seems rattled, he seems prickly, he seems annoyed. There was one I heard him arguing with someone from TalkSport, which we've all done, but he was like, I didn't say that, and he was like, well, you just literally said that, and he's like, no, I didn't. And you think, and then he's got the one where it was Ian Ladyman, I think, from the Daily Mail. Again, we've all argued with people from the Daily Mail, but he's saying, oh, give me some examples of mistakes. And it was like a list of what's going wrong. And it just doesn't look great from the manager's point of view, whether you agree with these journalists or not. Because listen, I understand it completely. Journalists can try and prod a manager, try and get a reaction out of him. But even so, some of his reactions does look a little bit like he's getting rattled. It's just not a good place at the minute for Erik Ten Hag, and hopefully the international break can calm everything down.
The reason that's happening is because we're playing badly.
Yeah, of course.
Like, I think there's nothing he can say that is going to satisfy us when the results are shit. Like, you can admit fault, it's all my fault, but what's going to do that for a year? And then when we beat Liverpool in the FA Cup, that was because of me. We won because of me, we lose because of me. When we win the FA Cup, I'm brilliant, we've won the FA Cup. Like, you can't be as reactive to say every time we lose, oh, I'm really sorry everyone was shit and I'm shit. And then when you win, you say, oh, I'm all great, because then you look like you're egotistical. If you're defensive, you look delusional. If you say things are positive when they're not, you look naive and idiotic. Like, I'm not saying what he's saying is great and it all makes sense, but there is nothing he could be saying for a sustained period of time where you go, you know what, Erik, brilliant that, and that makes up for the losing matches. The problem is that we keep losing, and of course he's going to get hard questions, nasty questions, and fair enough, but there's no perfect way through it where you sort of applaud a manager despite being shit.
Last 9 months has been a change though, where
there might have been
there's been a change where he's gone very defensive and borderline delusional in press conferences.
But and
that's just a man he's under pressure. He knows he's under pressure.
Look at Jose with his three titles. Respect me, Jose. I remember going in those early press conferences with Jose, and he wasn't always like that. He was all right. He was chill. You could have a laugh with him. And then he got to the point where I remember we lost at Hull, and he said their second goal didn't count, so we drew. He was going on about his record and saying, "Show me respect." After the Sevilla game, he said we weren't going to win the Champions League anyway. You had Louis van Gaal who started turning up with pieces of paper with stats on him and saying, "Look at this. This is Sam Allardyce is talking rubbish. The fans love me. They're chanting Louis van Gaal's army and all that stuff." Storming out of press conferences after a minute, saying, "Enjoy your mince pies." It's like all United managers go through that stage.
Managers.
I know, even Ole, where Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he kind of went the other way. If you remember, a lot of Ole's press conferences when things were going wrong were kind of like, it's more on me. Like, I have to take responsibility. Look, I'm not going to blame the players. I'm the one who's coming up with tactics. I'm the one that's picking him. And that didn't get the media off his case.
Nothing's going to work.
Like, the media didn't go, Ole's great. Ole's holding his hands up. They went, he's not a United manager. No. What's he doing?
The only thing that works is winning matches. And Klopp is the proof of that, because he won matches. He's a knobhead in press conferences. The amount of snarky comments, little digs, personal attacks at people's, people's weight and stuff, how people look, like little diggy things about we'd lost because the pitch was too long. One of the time at United we drew, we'd made 3 subs in the first half, and he said their subs, because of injury, put us off. That's why we didn't win.
Was that when we had Marcus hobbling around because he was injured?
We'd make
Jordan Pickford and Jordan Henderson had stood on his ankle, and he couldn't make any more subs.
He was blaming us losing 3 players to injury for the fact that his team didn't win the game. But because he won trophies every other season or whatever, he won a Premier League, he won a Champions League, got to a couple more Champions League finals, it don't really matter what he said, and he's got a little charisma and a smile to him when things are going well. But Klopp was a terrible loser. If he'd have lost, lost that many games, or done as poorly as United did last season in the league, you would have seen equally embarrassing things from him, but in a different way. There's no way through it. You just have to start winning games, and then you'll stop being criticised. It's that simple.
I want to get through some of the comments, and then we'll quickly move on, talk about Onana, and then do Wally of the week. Connor O'Reilly coming in again and said everyone knows Erik Ten Hag is a dead man Walking, it's Echo, who's been a member of the first team for 25 months, says, I hate having these arguments 3 games into the season. Devar Shawnee says, as anyone looks at the pass map from the Liverpool game, we are one of the worst coached teams in the league. Had Hussein says, I don't know if it's just me, but Erik Ten Hag seems to be a different man since his second season, which is sort of you alluding to. I remember him being flexible, adaptable with tactics. I've hardly seen that since. Lewis Archer says, something controversial. First choice midfield should be Mount, Agate, Bruno for control and pressing. Lack of left-footed left-back overlaps hurts Rashford. Can't keep buying left-backs to cover issues. I think that is controversial. You're saying that Kobe Mainoo shouldn't start, but we'll get into that another time. I want to talk quickly about Andre Onana, because I like Onana. I wanted us to bring him in. I thought De Gea probably did need to be replaced. The first season, beginning of the season, was terrible. He cost us the Champions League. I think our spot in the Champions League. I don't think we're going to win it, but some of the performances in that competition were awful. But he got better as the season went along. This season, he concerns me. And I'm concerned because it's his second season. And I want to see him kicking on. I want to see his distribution being on point. I want to see him commanding his area. I want to see him making good saves. I want to see him bringing a bit of confidence and calmness to the back four. We saw Patrice Evra on the overlap the other day saying that Van der Sar was the most important person in the defence because of the way he sort of managed everyone. Onana looks a little bit all over the gaff at the minute, and it's a worry. For me, you may disagree, by all means.
I wasn't happy with the third goal. I thought the third goal was really poor keeping and his positioning. It just seems like he's always on the edge of a howler. And this actually seems quite harsh because it's been the case. He single-handedly probably got us out of the Champions League last season as well.
100%. I mean, I like the kid, but come on.
But then you look at the league form, the advanced metrics said that he was probably one of the better keepers last season in terms of shots he saved that he shouldn't, and that United should have conceded more goals, and Onana was beneficial in terms of keeping those out.
Yep.
But he's been brought here for his distribution, which can be good at times, but sometimes not. And I said to Joe earlier, I was like, what's affected Onana's distribution? Because his distribution was much better for Inter Milan. So is it because of the pressure at Manchester United? Is it the build-up structure at Manchester United's not as good as it at Inter Milan? Was he put in better positions? Was he given better passing outlets? There's a lot of stuff that you can probably attribute to his form, but in just terms of general keeping, I just feel like there's always an error abound when a shot's going at him. I'm just never that confident. In terms of commanding his area, he's not too bad actually, but when it comes to the basics, which is shot stopping, and I have this thing with Ederson. I thought Ederson's one of the best keepers ever, probably, when it comes to using his feet. But I feel like he barely ever makes a save.
Yeah.
See, I feel like when City play people, they have like 2 shots on goal and one of them goes in that Ederson should have saved. And I prefer my keeper, as much as ball playing has become important, I'd actually prefer it if they were better at the main purpose of goalkeeping, which is to stop shots going in my goal.
Yeah. I think Onana's an annoying situation because he's very unorthodox. The way he moves his body, the way he dives, the way he positions himself is unorthodox. And sometimes that leads to ridiculous saves, like the ball will be right in the corner, and because he's gambled early, he always gambles early. I don't think he trusts his own athleticism maybe, or his reaction time. I don't know what it is. There seems to be a lack of trust in his own sort of physical acumen. But he always goes really early, which means that at times the ball will be right in the corner and he will be on it and it'll be like in his chest, and he's an impossible way over into the corner of the net, where normally someone would be fingertipping it around the corner. He's like gathering it in his midriff because he's gone so early. Whereas at other times, a shot like the Salah one yesterday, where it's a foot and a half in from the post, he should have been there, maybe saving it with his foot, maybe getting down there to block it. He's left the whole front of the goal completely wide open, because I think the second goal, if you look, he sets himself late and he's moving across his goal as Diaz hits it. So he tries to get back across and he can't get down to it. So it's almost like he's gone, oh shit, I set myself too late there. I'm not going to make that mistake again. So the Salah goal, he sets himself and then the ball comes 10 yards across the pitch and he don't move again. No. And now he's got the whole near side of his goal completely wide open. It's like he's gone completely the other way from the first one. But he's one of those keepers that over the course of a season, it sort of balances itself out in the league anyway. He'll make some weird mistakes and he'll make some saves where you're like, how is he collecting that so comfortably? That was in the top corner. But like you said, Ronaldo, you kind of want someone who's a bit more reliable and consistent, and hopefully he can do a bit of that. But I do think at times he's going to make odd mistakes where he's just stood in the wrong spot, because he's always trying to predict where the striker's going, because he relies on that. David De Gea is a much better reactive goalkeeper. Onana's more of a predictive goalkeeper, where he's trying to assume where the play's going to go and get there early, and at times that leads you to just look stupid. So I don't know if we accept it necessarily, but that's just a part of what kind of keeper he is, unfortunately.
Yeah, Mark Whiteley, welcome to the first team. Chris Holt says, anyone saying Ten Hag out, name anyone we can bring in who is better. I don't say rude 3 games in, that's mad. Like anyone else, I was disappointed yesterday. I'm fed up with it, but I don't know the fix. Also, as well, Michael Dyson says, I thought I couldn't get more disappointed after my failed Oasis ticket attempt, and then Sunday happened. Sad. Burnside Back says, there's a nasty little habit here of a manager very swift to chuck his players under a train that needed legs remark. True or not? Shocking man management. Let's just move on now. Matter of time. Right, before we wrap up, Wally,
I don't think he threw his players under the bus yesterday. Saying that we needed legs in the middle, that's not throwing anyone under the bus. Come on, that's as gentle as you can be.
It's kind of subtle though. Basically,
it's subtle, but
in a way, you're saying that Casemiro and Manu didn't have enough legs, or Bruno didn't have enough legs.
I don't know.
But and that was maybe a reference to him bringing Ugarte in, who's got a bit more legs. But if he ends up looking poor, then it's just going to come down.
I feel like a guy, has to work out. He just does, really, doesn't he? There's no two ways about it.
I'm scared for him.
I am a little
bit.
For
Ugarte?
I'm scared for Ugarte because he's coming into a United team, performing like this with the manager obviously saying stuff like that. It almost seems as if people are going to put expectations on him that are too lofty, and that's what concerns me for him, especially when all I've seen over the last few years is players coming to United and not performing to what their best is, and then there has to be a point where you actually look at, are players that play for Manchester United really that bad, these internationals, or is it to do with the structure, and this comes from the board that's changed now, or is it down to the managerial stuff as well?
I think the environment as well has been a big problem.
I agree. Right, let's have Wally of the Week before we wrap up. Joseph, give us your Wally of the Week.
That's a nice one. That's a nice question. Wally of the Week, eh? I mean, I'm going to steal Ronaldo's Everton.
Why?
You've been shocking all season.
Yeah.
Your fans have been at the train station berating your players after the second game of the season because they're so disappointed with the performances, the effort, the style of play, the culture at the club generally, the fact that the ownership and the relationship with the fans is completely toxic and just broken beyond belief. They've had fallen through transfer club sales. They just couldn't be at their wits' end anymore. You're 2-0 up at home. You're cruising. 87 minutes gone, and you lose. That's unthinkable.
Yeah.
You can't. That is unthinkable to be 2-0 up. Was it Bournemouth as well? 2-0 up at home to Bournemouth, a team who were all right in the 87th minute, and you lose 3-2. That is absolutely shocking. If I was an Everton fan, I wouldn't be able to speak. I wouldn't be able to speak right to this very day. I wouldn't be able to speak after that. That's unbelievable, isn't it? So silly.
It is silly. Ronnie, who's yours? Are you going with him? You can both.
I was going to go Everton fans, but I can also do Arsenal fans.
Go on, why?
Nice. Just about the way how far they've taken a meltdown over the Declan Rice decision, and they've made they've made it seem
so typical.
They made it seem like Arsenal have some sort of like inner corruption against them from the referee, and that stopped them winning the titles. Yeah. That's what they said. And
it's the ref's fault.
Some of them asked. I saw Arsenal fans asking if they can get all the yellow cards and red cards and penalties won and against since Arteta's arrival, and see how it matches up against the rest of the teams. How can you do that? Because are they going to sit down and go through every single yellow card and red card decision on camera and see whether they were justified or not? Because even if Arsenal did have more yellows and more reds than maybe a rival, what's to say that 99% of them weren't justified anyway?
Yeah. And also, this Declan Rice thing, he's kicked the ball away. There's no rule that says if you kick it 10 yards it's a booking, if you kick it 2 yards it's not. Have you stopped the replay of the game happening, or the resumation of the game happening by kicking the ball away? Yes, it's a yellow card. It doesn't matter whether you boot it into the crowd or you kick it 2 yards. He's trying to take a free kick and you've knocked it off the spot. That's a yellow.
Do you know what I hate?
Shut up.
Do you know what's what with refereeing distance? What I hate, the whataboutism part of refereeing that fans do is like, if a decision is made against them that they think's harsh, but it's probably correct by the letter of the law, they'll point to another incident that either happened earlier or happened the other week and said, this wasn't given.
Yeah.
So basically, by a fan's logic, that says that is, here's a wrong decision that was made last week.
Yeah.
So a wrong decision should have been made.
We
for us
want
today.
a wrong decision as well.
Yes, basically.
I agree. My Wally of the week's going to be Trent Alexander-Arnold, making all that fuss, kissing the camera, and your goal got disallowed. I don't give a fuck if you still won. You still made yourself look like a Wally. We'll leave it there. Thank you to everyone who got involved in the chat and the comments. Make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. We've got more videos coming up. Of course, you've got House and Versus tomorrow. Everyone looks forward to that. Also, we've got the news in the morning too, of course. So hit like, share and subscribe. Go and check out Joe Smith on Sloppy Joe's. You know how to find him. Go and check out Ronaldo Brown on what used to be known as the Bird app. I've been Jay Motti. That's been Joe Smith. That's been Ronaldo Brown. Thanks for watching.